We're just going to cover video structure and formatting, the importance of storytelling in videos, and how to incorporate visual branding. So starting with video structure, some of you just got to hear this, but basically 93% of marketers do credit short video on social media for acquiring new customers. But I was saying that a lot of people don't realize how short actually means, because when we say short form video, we're talking about 90 seconds or less. Sometimes you can get to 2 minutes, but really it should be 90 seconds or less. And you'll see that because Instagram actually prevents you from posting reels that are longer than that, unless you kind of circumvent their algorithm by posting it as a post instead of a reel. But they purposefully limit videos to 90 seconds or less. And a lot of that is because when a video is that short, you retain 50% of your viewership. So half of people will finish your video if it's 90 seconds or less. Whereas if it's longer, you lose a lot more people. And as I was saying, you want people to stay to the end of the video because that shows the algorithm that what you're saying is valuable and entertaining enough that people are watching the whole thing. So they are far more likely to push that out to new audiences and to a bigger audience, if that is something that's happening. So 90 seconds or less, that's what we count as short form. Now, in terms of a successful video formula, I always say starting with some form of hook is a great way to start. So attention grabbing, giving people a reason to watch the end, talking about, hey, I'm about to give you 5 tips on this topic. You're going to want to stick around for all 5, and I might even throw a bonus one in at the end. That's always a good way to get people to feel like, oh, I don't want to miss out on the content towards the end of the video. So they're going to stick around to see what you have to say. I also really like to make sure that you're remembering the video has a beginning, middle, and end. So that's what this formula is. The hook is your beginning, then the middle is your value, your entertainment, whatever education you're providing. And then the end is, I think, where everyone kind of forgets. You're kind of wrapping up the video, you're trying to jump off, but make sure you're asking some sort of conversation starting question, or you're including a call to action. Really, you're just trying to find a way to engage your audience and to make it clear to your audience how you want them to engage. So if you're saying, hey, do you agree with me? Tell me in the comments, or what's your opinion on this? Or has this ever happened to you? You want to tap into more than just a yes or no answer. You want to be able to give your audience a directive on, here's what I'm asking you, go tell me what you think. And this is why I care what you think and what you think matters, because that's going to be what gets everyone to feel compelled enough to participate in the comments instead of just scrolling by and going, oh, that was interesting. But if you say, hey, I'm talking about debt to income ratio, like what's your credit score and what's your goal credit score that you're trying to hit? Maybe I can give you a tip to help you get there. Something like that is going to compel people to say, oh yeah, I kind of do want to know, I'm about to hit 800 and I want to know how to get that last extra point or two. What tips might you have for me? So that's going to be your successful video formula. But then in all of that, making sure you're keeping the content concise and impactful. So it's hard to do, but if you can do this formula in 90 seconds or less, it's golden, and you're going to find a lot more success in your videos. And then you can always throw in a variety later. Brandon, anything to add before I move on here?
Yeah, so I mean, I love what you're talking about. 90 seconds or less is really the goal. In fact, Instagram has shared recently in their professional dashboard. I have a video going about this next week, but they're actually seeing the highest success between 30 to 60 seconds. So the shorter that you can make your reels, the shorter you can make your videos and get your point across, the better. So whether it's tightening up the editing, which you can use Video Catalyst for that, or whether it's talking quickly, that's one of the biggest ways that I've changed my videos, is like talk a little bit faster than I normally would to try and hurry those videos up and keep people's attention. The tighter that you can make those videos, the better.
I agree. I'm also a fast talker, so that definitely works in my favor. Perfect. So then in terms of video framing and formatting, I just wanted to go over a few basic tips. Good lighting and clear audio are going to be a huge differentiator for your content. I think too often I see people with really good scripts or really good content that they're talking about, but their video camera is a little blurry, or the lighting isn't great, and it just automatically makes you want to scroll by. So we always say, just make sure you're facing a light source. The light should be shining on your face. It shouldn't be off to the side or behind you. If you have uneven lighting where it's on one half of your face and not the other, that can just make it so that people are a little like, oh, I don't really know what this is about. I'm not really interested in sticking around, even just to hear what the video is about. So that's number one. Just make sure you're doing that. In terms of affordable equipment setup, you don't have to have anything wildly, you don't have to have the whole ring light and tripod and all of that. If you want to, it definitely helps. I think it can help make your video, not shaky, more consistent. You have a little area set up for filming, and it makes you more inclined to want to film more often. But it can be as simple as just finding some natural light or finding a good area in your home, your office, wherever that has good lighting, and then using your little like the Mac headphones, the Apple headphones that just plug in and have the little microphone on them. You can use that. If your room's not echoey, oh yeah, thank you, Brandon. I knew
This
you'd
is
have
what you're referencing. These kind of like Apple cheap microphones. Yeah.
Mhm. That's all you really need. And honestly, as long as your room isn't super echoey, you can do videos without a microphone. I think if you want to up your quality, there's a couple Bluetooth or those wireless microphones that work really well from Amazon that are not that expensive. But a good happy medium is just that right there. And I think it makes people feel like, oh, you're on a walk, or oh, you have your headphone in. Like it feels a little more personal because it's like, oh, you're taking the time to talk to me into this little microphone. Like, what do you have to say?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say when it comes to equipment is I would recommend starting off with nothing. Because what will happen is that as you are creating more and more content, you will kind of start to figure out what it is that you need. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go buy a whole lighting setup, go buy a really nice microphone, and then you're like, well, this isn't working, and then you give up.
Or you're like, "I
Um,
can't figure out how to turn on this wireless microphone,"
yeah,
for the last 2 weeks, and then you just don't it's a excuse that you can use to not do video, and I think that too often is people get really excited, they jump all in, they're like, "Okay, I've got the whole setup," but then getting the setup is so exhausting that by the time it's time to film, they're kinda like, I'll do this next week," and then it never
mhm.
happens. So instead, just use your camera, prop it up, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I would just say make sure that you're clearly lit and we can hear you because as we've been having audio problems today, audio is a big deal. So making sure the good quality, good audio, good lighting, that can be the biggest thing. And then in terms of framing, I always just say the camera should be at eye level because it makes it feel like you're talking to someone in a conversation, which kind of really makes that feel more natural, more authentic, which is much more popular on social media nowadays than that super glammed up, high angle millennial selfie angle that they always like to make fun of us for. And then if you really want to get specific about it, the rule of thirds is a great trick that I like to use. So in your camera frame, when you open it, you probably can notice that there's sometimes a grid. And what they're doing is they're trying to give you that grid to determine those thirds. And what I always say is make sure that if you're doing especially a, you know, face on shot, keep your shoulders in the frame and you and your torso and your shoulders should take up 2/3 of the frame and theoretically at the bottom 2/3. I don't know how you'd only take up the top 2/3, but you take up the bottom 2/3 of the frame and leave some room above your head. And that can be great for leaving room for captions, or it just kind of adds that visual symmetry that makes people feel like, oh, you're not too close. Because I see a lot of people do that as well. They're like very close to the camera, and it feels a little like if you're in a conversation and someone's standing too close, it makes you kind of want to back up. So don't be afraid to stand back from the camera, show your hands, use gestures. You just want to feel natural, feel like you're on FaceTime with your friend and you're having a conversation. That's how people want to feel when they're watching your videos. So those are my quick tips. Now let's get into the importance of storytelling. And this is something I'm super passionate about because I was a creative writing major in college. So stories are my bread and butter. But I will always emphasize the fact that people remember stories far more than facts. You're always going to remember, the story someone told you rather than the fact they were trying to get across. I will always say, I remember the Battle of Fredericksburg from AP US history because my teacher told me the story, not because he said this happened in 18 whatever at this place, blah, blah, blah. But the stories are what make things memorable to us. So, in terms of framing your titles on your video and the way you start your video with that hook can make a really big difference. So, instead of saying, oh, let's talk about what debt to income is and why it matters. Okay, that's a fact, mildly interesting. Maybe if it's really relevant to me, I'll stay. But if you say something more like, here's how buying a PS5 can ruin your home loan, I'm going to stop and go, wait, what? I didn't even know that was possible. And even as someone who maybe isn't ready to buy a home yet, I'm going to find that relevant and say, oh, wait, okay, I'm really curious. Buying a PS5 can make sure you don't get a house. How does that work? So if you can create that question and kind of hook people in with that, like, wait, what do you mean? I didn't know that was a thing, or I don't want to feel like I'm missing out on this information. That's a much stronger way to get your information across through a story. And then what that is also doing is creating an emotional and personal connection. And so that is a really, really strong way of showing your authenticity and your expertise, but through, hey, I had a client call me up and ask me, or, oh, I remember this client from 10 years ago who said this, and now today they came back and they want to refinance with me, and this is what I told them to do. Because that adds credibility to you and your expertise and how long you've been doing this. It shows that someone else is coming to you for this advice and asking things of you, and that you are genuinely giving this advice to other people. And so it makes, as a viewer, it makes you feel like, oh, okay, if someone else is asking this, it's probably relevant to more than just one person. And the fact that this person, this loan officer that I'm watching, is able to answer this, and I feel like it's a very real, compelling situation, makes me want to know what's going on, and should I know this too? And maybe it's not relevant to me in this moment, but it might be in a year from now or 2 years from now, and I want to know the answer. So using your personal anecdotes, your client success stories, anything you can do to highlight the emotional aspect of your interactions is going to make your content stronger and is going to make people more compelled to watch it. And then in that, my last point is that you are the best way to differentiate your content. And I will always say this: as many tips as I can give you here for making better quality videos or structuring them to be more successful, you and your personality are what makes your content shine. And if you can find ways like this example video from one of our users, Amy, it's so perfect because it's just her introducing herself. But instead of saying, hi, I'm Amy from X bank and I do mortgages I have done for 18 years. Instead, she gets on and she goes, I'm a loan officer with Flair and I'm wearing my suspenders from TGI Fridays from my first job. Let's talk about it. And that just makes it fun because it makes us all think, oh, what was my first job? And oh, that's fun. And what was that like working at TGI Fridays? And you do seem like a fun person. I want to reach out to you. I want to comment. I want to work with you. So if you can find really easy, subtle ways to just show who you are and why people should interact with you, that's going to be the biggest differentiator in your content. Any other thoughts, Brandon?
No, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head here. I mean, the thing about storytelling is that, like you said, we remember stories more than we remember facts.
Mhm.
There's a reason why a lot of our memory is based on like a kind of like a broad situation that we remember, and it's oftentimes difficult for us to remember the individual little things. But as you start to, if I ask you, oh, what did you have for lunch on the 3rd of July or 4th of July? Let's do that. You'd probably have to, oh, what did I have? It's probably some kind of hot dog hamburger type thing. But if I go, tell me like, okay, so let's talk through like what did you do? What happened? Okay, well, we went to we went to a parade and we were at the parade. Oh yeah, and there were people who were serving corn dogs. It wasn't hot dogs, it was corn dogs. As you're hearing the story and as you're kind of like remembering things in kind of a broad scope, it helps you to kind of piece together the little things. So when we talk about sharing a lot of these facts as stories, you're kind of packaging a lot of things in something that's more relatable and memorable than telling someone just what this one specific loan package is, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I think when it comes to in everything that you do, everything, anytime that you want to make a video talking about a specific what is an FHA loan, instead of starting off your video, let's talk about FHA loans, or what is an FHA loan, and then you start talking about it. Instead, say, I want to tell you about a loan that I put together for someone that literally changed their life.
Mhm.
And then now I can talk about an FHA.
Yeah, I think it's about painting that picture for clients as well. Because the other thing I think we forget a lot as when we are people in the industry and we understand a lot more than the general consumer. And so if you can frame it in a way, when you say, oh, hey, FHA loans or loan limits have dropped or raised or whatever, when you're using terminology that other people don't understand what it means out of context, you're going to lose them in that first scroll. Whereas if you can say, hey, if you thought you couldn't buy a house, loan limits have changed, and this may mean that you're now eligible without having to put a ton of money down. People are going to go, oh, okay, I kind of understand what that means. Explain. And they're going to stick around for the video. So I always love that storytelling aspect. And if you don't have a client who's gone through this, you can say, if I had a client who came to me, use a hypothetical, make a skit, talk about, but putting it in that story framework and kind of saying, this is what it means for you. This is the impact it would have on you. Not just here's the type of loan you should get, but like if you have this credit score, you have this much saved and you live in this area, this is the type of home loan I would recommend for you. Obviously we need to look at your situation and make sure, but here's my recommendation and come talk to me about it.
Go look at any Yeah, sorry. To you,
Good.
yes.
No, you're good.
Go look at any of the top performing LOs on social media, and they are all doing this exact thing. If they
Mhm.
want to talk about a concept, they talk about it in terms of a story. They tell about their experiences working with people, because what they know and what all of us know, anyone watching knows, is that people have, yes, like every person's different, every person's experience. But here's the thing, so many of the people that come into you and want to work with you and are looking for a loan, their situation is identical to 10, 15, 20 other situations that you've seen. So if you take one of those situations and say, you know, last week someone came to me and had, this situation. 5, 10, 20 other people who were watching that video go, I have the same problem and this person
Mhm.
can solve it. So that's also where the storytelling makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think it makes it more natural for finding content ideas. It means you're not scrambling to be like, "Oh, what topic have I not spoken about in a while?" And even if you do it that way, you say, "Okay, I haven't talked about down payment assistance." And instead of sitting there going, "Okay, what can I really say?" You just have to think of a story, whether you make one up or you talk to somebody or you go, "Oh, I had that person come to me about down payment assistance and they asked me this question and I bet a million other people have this question too." And to me, that's what I love. It's also the lesson from school, right? Your teacher would always say, if you have the question, there are 10 other people in the class who have the same question but aren't brave enough to raise their hand about it. So be the person as a loan officer who's answering those questions without making your audience need to raise their hand and DM you first. If you can provide value to them and they can just passively be absorbing it, you're also going to be cultivating them to be the perfect client. If you say, here's step one, here's step two, here's your checklist, once all these three things are done, come talk to me and we'll get you set up, all of a sudden you're going to get people going, okay, I saw your video and I do have those three things done. What do I do next?
Mhm.
And then you're saving time, you're getting the clients you want, and it's just a better cycle of cultivating everything for you. So tell that story. It's very effective. And let's keep going. Okay, so visual branding. This is another one I'm really passionate about because I think it's just so subtle and it doesn't have to be anything ridiculous, but I love it. So let's talk, what is visual branding? Because I feel like a lot of people kind of don't always know what this is. Visual branding is using visual elements to make you and your brand recognizable across all platforms. So we all know, right? Most brands have a logo, they have specific colors they use, they have a font that they stick to. That's all visual branding. But this is more in terms of video, it can be a little different. We can use that a little differently, but it serves to help make you recognizable at a glance. Because what we see, right, is people scroll all the time and you have about 3 to 5 seconds, sometimes even less, to make an impression to get them to stick around. And so if they start to recognize content and start to recognize it's valuable and know you as a person and go, oh wait, it's Amy, it's Brandon, like they're so fun, I want to watch. But if they scroll before they even can realize it's you, you've lost them. So how do you get it so that they stick around while providing that cohesive look to all of your content? Well, the obvious is going to be, right, those logos, those fonts, those brand colors. But you don't have to just plaster all of those on every video and every post all the time. The way I like to do it is just think about how to tie your content together visually in a way that will make people recognize it. So, sticking to the same 1 to 2 colors for video captions, that can be a really easy way. If you're changing the color up every single time, you know, it's just kind of like when people are scrolling, they might see the captions, they might scroll. But if you're known for having like bright green captions and they know all of your videos have bright green captions, they might hesitate when they see the bright green and go, oh, is that Amy? No, okay, never mind, scroll. Or if it is you, they might stick around. Same thing for using recognizable imagery. I love, like Brandon, you're very well known in our company. You always have a hat on and you love the hat, and the Giants hat is a little bit of part of your brand. We just know what to expect from you. Sometimes it can be an accessory, an outfit. Like if you have like a bright pink blazer, wear the bright pink blazer. And if you wear that in most of your videos, people are going to start going, oh, that's the bright pink blazer girl. Like, yes. And you don't have to do it that way, right? If that's not your brand or your vibe, don't worry about it. But if you can find some element to tie in, even if that's like, okay, I record from the same background a lot and people start recognizing my office. Or if I'm the person who always records in my car, like every single video is in my car, people are just, it gives them a way to recognize you and your content more quickly because we do process those visual cues faster than audio. So if they see something they recognize before they even hear you begin the video, they're more likely to stick around. And then as like a bonus tip, you can always, some people can do a catchphrase. It's a tricky one. I don't always recommend it. I know we have one user, Ladon. Every video he starts, he goes, "What up, though?" And then he starts. And every time I hear that, I stop my scroll because I'm always like, "Oh, it's Ladon. He has such great energy. I want to watch this video." So sometimes it can work. Again, it depends on you and your brand. You had not a bad example, but you had someone who kind of had a jarring intro that we were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
This something like "What up, chickens?" or something too random. Don't do something crazy random just to try to make it work. It should be something that feels authentic, and it should be short. Oh, good question here. Do you recommend for us to say our name and title every time? Honestly, no. Especially not at the beginning of your video. Do not start your video with the intro, because if someone already doesn't know who you are, they don't know why they should care, if that makes sense. So you're losing that 3 to 5 seconds to catch their attention, and you're wasting it by going, "Hi, I'm Ashley." And it's like, "Cool. What does that mean to me?" Whereas if
Yeah,
you
if
say,
you
"Hey,"
want to do that, I would save that for the end of your video.
or in the middle. I would say you can even do it in the middle if it makes sense. I know Rebecca Richardson, she's another user of ours, the Mortgage Mentor. She does this really well. Well, she'll deliver her hook. She'll kind of start talking about it. And then she'll kind of be like, "Oh, and the reason I'm talking about this is because I've done this for 20 years. I'm here to help you if you have these questions as a mortgage loan officer." Anyway, and then she keeps going. So if you can integrate that introduction in a natural way, it makes sense, go for it. But I would always say save it for either the middle or the end, because at that point, it's okay if people want to scroll away or whatever. But the other point I always like to tell people is a reminder of, if your content is valuable enough, it's all attached to your profile. So if they really want to know who you are, they'll go to your profile and watch your videos, and your bio should say your name and the states you serve, and a little link to click if they want more information or whatever. So I don't think it's really necessary, but if you feel like you want to, just don't do it in the beginning, because that's the easiest way to get people to scroll. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, and then all of this is just to say, like, find a style that works for you and stick to it. Your goal is to be memorable, recognizable, make your followers feel like, "Oh my gosh, this is this person I like or I admire. They give good advice, or I like this series that they do. I want to watch it." And that was my bonus tip that I forgot about, actually. Content series are a really good way to be memorable. So if you have, let's say you do a coffee every week and you like to try something new, turn that into a series. Say, "Hey guys, let's go over my Starbucks order for the day, and here's my mortgage tip for today." You can tie those two things together and make it so that people are like, "Oh, I want to see what drink she gets, and then I'll take the mortgage tip on the side." Not everyone is going to need all the mortgage information you have all the time, right? Because not everyone is at the stage where they're ready to buy a home and they're paying attention to that information. But if you can frame it in a way that's kind of fun, or makes you a fun person, or even if you can take those tips and kind of say, "Hey, this may not apply to you for a couple of years, but here's what you should know," and be preparing. That is how I would recommend. Oh, here's another comment. "It feels weird to hit record and immediately go into my story without saying who I am. Any suggestions?" That's fair. I understand why that feels awkward. To be honest, I would say I still would cut it. If you want, you can record and you can say that, and then I would just cut it off when you go to edit the video. But I would think of it this way. It's like if you're at a party and you're meeting someone new, we all feel that little bit of like, ugh, right? When you have to go into small talk and you're like, "Oh no, like I have to be like, 'Oh, hi, I'm Ashley,' and like pitch myself a little bit and kind of get past that initial awkwardness to find something compatible." And then all of a sudden you're best buds and you talk the whole party and you figured out your thing that you just can't stop talking about. That is what a video feels like. When you start with, "Hi, I'm Ashley," it feels like that initial, like, oh, awkward small talk. I don't have the energy for this. And I think that's what makes people scroll. Whereas if you can already act like we're best friends, if you can be like, "Hey," don't even say, "Hey." Like I do that in my videos a lot, is I'll start my video by saying, "Hey guys," and I'll keep talking. But then later when I go to edit the video, I just cut that out. Cause I'm like, no one needs that. No one needs to know that I'm greeting you. We can just act like we've been on FaceTime for an hour. And I'm going, "Did I tell you about this? Wait a minute. You want to hear this story." That's how you want to start. So it doesn't feel natural. I completely understand that. But my advice would just be, if you need to do it in the recording, but then cut it, and then you'll get better at that. And starting in the middle is always a good hook as well, because it makes people feel like, "Oh, wait, I'm just getting thrown into something," and they have to play catch up, and then they'll stick around.
And after you've made enough videos, it's going to feel completely natural to not be introducing yourself every time.
Hmm.
Because what's going to happen is that, we talk about like this visual brand, that the more that people see you, it doesn't matter It doesn't matter that you wouldn't have to introduce yourself anymore. So if you're creating enough content, then the introduction becomes more and more worthless because the people who are watching you already know. And here's the thing. 99.9% of the people watching you, they don't even care who you are.
Yeah.
Your content needs to be good so that they then go, all right, this person knows what they're talking about. Like you said, let me go check out their profile. Let me see some of this other stuff. I'll follow them. But
Yeah.
if you
And
are
that's why
worrying,
oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
but if you're so worried about introducing yourself every time, you are actually you are holding your own content back in the hopes of I just want people to like know who I am because we know why you want to introduce yourself. You want to introduce yourself so people will say, "Okay, here's a loan officer. I need a loan. I should reach out to them," or they'll look you up, or all these different things. But again, at the end of the day, they don't care who's making this video until the video is good and it is engaging and they feel like it helps them. Those three things, they may not even go look at your profile after that, but they may follow you and they may see a second video. They may
Mhm.
see a third video and then they go, all right, this person knows their stuff. Like, who is this person?
Right, or they might comment on it, or think of all the times I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I feel like I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, "Do you know that guy who does the skits about this?" Like, I don't know their name, I don't know their username, but I know who they are, and I'm enough to tell people, and sometimes when they have that recognizable, bit, like, if they have, oh, they always the girl with the water bottle that she always does that, or, oh, the guy with the hockey poster, like, people will be like, "Oh, yeah, 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 I know what you're talking about." That's all you need. Because if people know you and recognize you, they will still refer you. Like if someone's saying, "Oh, I really need some mortgage advice, like we're in this situation, I don't know," and their friend goes, "Oh, have you seen that guy on TikTok who talks about this stuff?" And they're going to go, "No." And they're like, "Oh, I'll find the profile and I'll send it to you." Like that, obviously getting your name in there is going to be important at some step, but I don't think that requires introducing yourself every time. And even if you really want your name in there, I would just say at the end, like, "Hey, like this is Tim. Thanks for watching. Let me know what questions you have." There. That's all you need. It doesn't need to be a long drawn out thing. So I hope that answers your question. Yes. And for editing, I totally feel you. Editing is my least favorite thing ever, which is why we do have a team of professional editors who do all that for you. And it's my favorite thing. So if you join Video Catalyst, for anyone watching this, you get 8 professionally edited videos every month. And I use that all the time because it just saves hours and hours and hours. And then I also like to say, it saves you from feeling self-conscious about your videos as well. Because I feel like, to me, the biggest thing that makes me not want to post a video is watching it 6,000 times and editing it and then being like, just kidding, this isn't a good video. I've watched it too many times. I'm not happy with it. I'm very self-critical. It kills my confidence. It kills how I felt. Whereas when I send it off and then they bring it back and they're like, "Here are captions. It's got fun graphics. It looks really good." I'm like, "Oh,
This
that's
is way
refreshing."
better than when I sent it out.
Right, it is better, and so it makes it so that you don't have to sit and, like, shred your confidence as you do it
Yeah.
yourself, so it saves
No
you
one
time.
wants to see how the sausage is made,
Yeah, exactly,
especially
exactly,
if you're the one making the sausage.
right, and the whole, like, hearing your own voice over and over thing, you just start, like, every little mannerism, you're like, "Why did I do that?" But instead, they just make it pretty, they send it back, and they're like, "Do you wanna post it?" You're like, "Yeah, send that, that's great." So, if you need that, tools are here for you. So yeah, recap of key takeaways. Good video structuring and technique alone are enough to start differentiating your content. So really it's just about good lighting, make sure your camera's not blurry. I always tell people, give it a little wipe like on your shirt, because I see a lot of people who have, like, when you grab it out of your pocket and you get your fingerprints all over it and then it's all oily and it creates this kind of glow. I've seen quite a few people recently with that, like, oily, glowy camera, and it feels weird. It makes you feel like you're kind of in a fishbowl or something.
You can buy a pack of like Windex screen wipes for like $4 for like 100 wipes on Amazon. Just
Yeah.
grab one of those,
Mhm. Or
wipe
if
it
you're like
off.
me, I clean my glasses every day. Just clean your camera. Do it at the same
Yeah.
time because it's the same concept. So just check and you'll know, like, just take a look at your camera, make sure lighting's good, quality's good. We do have a video on our Instagram and TikTok, I think, about lighting. My lighting trick is putting your hand out and filming it and spinning in a circle. And when you can see the shadows on your hand, like, you're like, "Oh, it's really hard to see my hand from this angle." But then when I spin this way, it looks really good. So that's where I do it. Oh, we have a question. Let's see, cinema mode video or straight video. I typically like to say just the normal video. I think that
Yes.
that is a lot easier. Cinema mode just adds some complications. It can be very cool. I like that for if you're B-roll shots, like if you B-roll is kind of when you're filming like filler. So if you're doing like, oh, I'm going to film a landscape and do a voiceover, cinema mode can be better for that. But especially if you're newer to videography, all of that, just stick to normal, because A, if you work with an editor, it's going to be a lot easier for them. And then B, it's not causing the camera to be refocusing and zooming in weird ways, because that can also lose people's attention really easily.
Yeah, that is one of the main reasons I say don't do it, is that you can't see it'll kind of focus itself. But also, if you're going to film it in cinema mode, you have to have your screen away from you. You have to use the back of the phone. So you can't see what you're looking like on screen at that moment. So you don't know if you're in frame, if you're holding something up, you can't see. But also, if you are, let's say you're filming in TikTok Studio to export and then run it through Video Catalyst, you can't use like green screen in the background. If you wanted to like run a any of those things, that you wouldn't be able to do it. So
yeah, the cinematic mode. Yeah, I think it's kind of like portrait mode, right? Every once in a while with photos, it looks really good, but a lot of the time, it's just, you should have just taken the normal photo.
yeah.
So I would say try to stick to that. And then Alexis has a really good point here. She says cinematic mode can also make the file size really large, which can cause complications when you're uploading to different platforms, or, if you're submitting to Video Catalyst, even any of that stuff, a really large file size, sometimes that can impact the quality, because if it doesn't upload well to the platform, suddenly when it gets there, it looks all grainy and blurry, and you're like, well, what was the point of that? So
Yeah.
I would always say keep it simple, just stick to it. You don't need to do anything fancy. Yeah, just sit there and record. That's kind of the whole thing. It's just, if you record it, if you make sure the lighting's good, it's clear who you are, the angle is straight on. It's not like, sometimes people go a little too high or a little too low. So the angle can be a little different, which different angles can work, I will say that. But I tend to prefer just the kind of straight on, as if you have someone sitting across the desk from you, or you're on FaceTime with a friend. People just want to feel like they know who you are, they know what they're getting, what they're seeing, and it feels really natural. And that's what I always recommend. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad we could answer that question for you. Thanks for submitting questions. It's really fun. So continuing, just structuring technique. Don't forget your hook and your conversation starting, ending. Those are the two things I think people forget. We all know how to do the value and the tips and everything in the middle. But the hook is getting people to start listening and staying. And then the conversation starter, that's going to be what drives your engagement. Because if you don't tell people what you want, if you just kind of say, here's my tip, okay, bye, everyone goes, okay, that was the tip, scroll. Whereas if you say, that's my tip, was this helpful? Or does this apply to you? Or what other questions do you have? Or has this ever happened to you? That makes people go, oh yeah, actually, I have a story I could tell. And then they stick around, which is what helps your engagement. And then using personal anecdotes to highlight the emotional and more relatable aspects of your role. I think that's always going to be, that's the storytelling, right? That's taking the facts, here's the changes to the industry, here's what's going on with rates. All of that is interesting to a degree, especially to people paying attention. But what about the people who aren't paying attention and don't know why they should be paying attention? You should be creating that story to be like, hey, rates have dropped, and if you don't know what that means, this is what you need to know. And that immediately tells me like, oh, I've heard that, but I don't know if I do know what that means. I mean, I do, but like as a consumer, they may not. So you might I would always say be cautious to over contextualize, because I do think that's something a lot of people forget. And that's what that storytelling will do, is it will tell people, hey, you may not know this, but here's why it's important to you, even if you haven't been paying attention. And then lastly, the reminder, you are the best way to differentiate your content. So incorporating your personality as part of your brand is the easiest way to make people want to relate to you and to come to you and talk to you, even when it isn't mortgage related. Because if you only ever talk about mortgage and business, people feel like, oh, well, I don't know what else to talk to them about. Whereas if you sit there and you say, oh, I'm headed to a baseball game, or, oh, I'm, at my kids pool meet, or this is how every Saturday I like to spend it at the park. It just gives people a way to be like, oh, okay, I like doing that too. What team do you support? Or, oh, my kid also does water polo. That's crazy. It just gives people a way to relate to you, and it makes it more fun. And when you're having fun, your audience is having fun. So I always like to tell people that as well. I'm like, if you're having fun making the video, people are going to have fun watching the video. So don't be afraid to be a little silly. Don't be afraid to incorporate what makes you happy, because that you're also going to then find your people. You're going to find people who like the same things that you do. So I'm a
Yeah.
reader. Brandon loves movies. Like, those are the best things.
Yeah. Not everyone is going to, that sees your content. Not everyone is a loan officer. Not everyone is an agent, but you are going to find a lot of dads and a lot of moms. And you're going to find a lot of, like you said, readers, and you're going to find a lot of sports fans and a lot of movie fans that watch your content. And so if there are things about you, hobbies you have, um, things about you, share those things in addition to your mortgage content. Um, I We talk about Tim Pasquarello a lot, one of
Oh
our
yeah.
Video Catalyst
Mhm.
users, and there's two videos that come to mind with him. A lot of mortgage content, but he's also found a way to integrate that into kind of like who he is and the way that he is, right? He has a video with his daughter in the car with him, and he's asking her mortgage concepts, and she's responding and giving him the answers.
I
And I'm
love that
like,
one.
that's a dad. As a dad myself to two young girls, I can relate to similar, scenarios. Like, we're going out for pizza or whatever. Hey, let me like film a quick video. Or him going out and he's like running. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, if I can get out here and run, like, you can get into a home. And it's like, obviously there's not a like one-to-one comparison. It's not as easy to go buy a home as it is to go outside and run. But like, what do I now know about him? I know he was wearing like a sports team shirt. So I now know what sports team he likes. So I can talk baseball now. Or he runs, I run. Like, I could talk about that with him if I end up working with him. And he does loans, three things in one video, and he's funny. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much that can be conveyed with a single video if you are just focusing on being yourself. You are a loan officer X amount of hours in a day, but you are a human being 24 hours a day. So if you can do both in your content, you will be the most successful than if you were just, today we're going to talk about loan packages. Like, that's, be a real person. You will find so much more success in doing so.
Mhm. And that's where that emotion comes in too, right? Like, showing Tim with his daughter makes it's so heartwarming. You're like, "Oh, that's cute." Or even for me, I was like, "Oh, I better stay and figure out if I know more than this girl, because she has just learned from overhearing her dad." I'm like, "If I don't know as much as she does, that's embarrassing." So I
Yeah,
feel like
it's mortgage. Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
exactly. So even just when you're having fun and you're being creative with your content, it just invites other people. And I feel like too, like we've been saying, sometimes people interact with the most random things. Like, I think you've said on your videos, you get a Go Giants comment like every single video, because
Hmm.
people just see the hat and go Giants. So if you can just incorporate things like that that make people feel like you're approachable, and they can just comment on whatever it is that they find interesting in your video, even if that's not necessarily what you're talking about. That they, hey, cool movie poster. Oh, hey, I see you have a trophy back there. What's that? That is going to open up that door for that personal connection. And we all want to work with people that we feel connected to. We feel like we trust, we feel like we know, and we know what it would be like to work with them. So obviously the value comes first, and your expertise as a loan officer is the most important thing in when it comes to working with someone directly. But in terms of getting them to want to work with you, that's the humanity, that's the emotion, that's the gap we're bridging between starting your content, getting people to be like, "Oh, it's that guy, he has great videos," or, "Oh, I love her, she has the best tips," to, "Okay, wait, now I actually need someone," or, "Oh, my mom wants to refinance. Hang on, mom, I know this loan officer. I've never talked to another loan officer in my life, but I watch her videos every single day and she knows what she's talking about. You should reach out." And that's what you're trying to cultivate here. It is a long game. That was the last thing I'll say. Social media is the long game. It's not always going to be instant viral videos, instant, 6 people DMing you from your first video. But what you'll notice is that your videos will always and tend to have way more viewership and way more engagement than static posts. So even if you post static things, which is great, keep doing it. I also say use that as a script. If you've posted a little infographic with like 4 home buying tips, just get on camera and reiterate those 4 tips and post it. And that gives us so much more of an insight into who you are. We see your face, we see the way you talk, we see your office or wherever you're filming. We get a lot more information about you through a video than we do from a static post that just kind of shows some facts. So that is still, the video can also just be the story compared to something like a static post. So if 70% of loan officers are only posting static content, but you're posting a video that says the exact same thing, the video is going to get a lot more attention. So that's why we always plug video. That's our big tip. So let us know if you guys have any other questions. Thank you so much for listening today. This is so much fun for us to do. I also wanted to point out we have additional resources, our social media pages. If you give us a follow, we post tips, tricks, we have blog posts, we post things all the time that are giving tactical advice and strategies for you to improve your content. So social media and blogs, feel free. You can also make sure you're subscribed to our Video Catalyst newsletter for any existing users. That's something that you get when you sign up for Video Catalyst. And we send out 3 new video scripts every single week that are topical and relevant and that you can use with our teleprompter tool to make video recording so easy. And then there's also like 200 plus scripts already in there, including video hooks, which are my personal favorite. It's we give you a topic or a question, and then you use that instead of reading off a script. You can just use that to answer it, because a lot of them are going to be things that you already know, but it's a lot more natural coming from you when it feels like someone's just asked you the question. And then, of course, if you want a one-on-one coaching, if you want us to take a look at your profile and give you personalized tips, you can always do that. Alexis has posted the link, it looks like, or I think Brandon will as well. But we'll get that link in the chat so that you guys can sign up for Brandon and I to take a look at your content. And you can always DM us on Instagram if you have further questions, want something like that. I'm always on there and I will monitor. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Yes, see you on social for sure. Thank you.